right, let's move it along. Since we're already talking about wastage in governance, let's look at the unsustainable rise in federal government personnel costs. A new report by Budge 8, an NGO that tracks public expenditure, has warned that the federal government's personnel cost is rising at a fast pace. This is disturbing, particularly when the government is still negotiating with the labor unions, on the implementation of the new minimum wage that got a presidential accent way back in April. Anyways, according to the Budge 8 report, the personnel cost at the federal level had increased from 1.8 trillion naira in 2017 to 2.1 trillion naira in 2018. Now, this is a jump of about 300 billion naira. By size, public servants make up just about 1% of Nigeria's population, estimated at about 200 million. According to the fourth quarter of 2016 data from the National Bureau of Statistics, on this score, this group will consume approximately a quarter of the 8.92 trillion budget for 2019.
A quarter.
Okay. What this means is it leaves a significant chunk of Nigerians reeling from shabby social infrastructure, and this is not sustainable, however you want to look at it. Now, the federal government has been borrowing heavily to pay minimum wage at 18,000 naira. In a little while, the payment of the new minimum wage of 30,000 naira will shoot up the personnel cost yet again. This aside, should we even talk about the debt profile, external debt profile of $21.0004 billion. Isn't this a huge burden, even on the government itself? You're a financial consultant, Mr. Shopito, so maybe you can break this down, to the littlest of details for us.
The problem, like I highlighted when we were talking about this VAT yesterday, is that we need the government to trim down its expenses, especially the amount paid to people in governance, the executive, the legislative. How can we justify a senator going home with 15 million every month in an economy that we say is in recession?
Exactly.
So how do we? I think incidentally there was a time the president referred to this, and I thought he was going to do something about it, because that is why politics in this country is a do or die affair. It's the easiest way to get money, to become a millionaire. Just get into government and then you've had it made. So if it is the civil servant, we know that the budget all along has been just 20-something% on capital distance. The remaining is for expenditure, for consumption. So there has to be a drastic rethinking. The issue of this RAP mark, the revenue and whatever thing that was created during our Obasanjo's era, that body should be scrapped and let the Salaries and Wages Commission fix the salaries for everybody, from president to the messenger. If the president is going to be level 50, let it be. Let us know what each person is earning, including all these people who, and then incidentally, this security vote that nobody is accountable for. I read somewhere where Transparency International was condemning it.
Of course.
So these are issues that this government has to look into these things, because this is what is leading to people risking their lives to go across the ocean to go to South Africa, and so let us trim all these things and then use the money to...
Because it's becoming more and more obvious by the day that the problem we have in Nigeria isn't that we're even poor.
No, we're not.
Inequality. Inequality in terms of how this wealth, is being shared. A couple of weeks ago, Nollywood actress Uche Jumbo went on Twitter to vent, because I can't remember the agency that revealed, what our senators and House of Reps go home with, and actually it's like a breakdown from furniture allowance to travel allowance to what, and on that list was hardship allowance of about 1 point something million, and I'm thinking, how many Nigerians get allowance for hardship? And then you have a select few. But isn't it dubious, really, for a government that told us from the onset they're going to be prudent, you know, this time around, to be doing something like this?
Well, sorry, we're patients. You know, when we talk about prudence, we talk about fighting corruption, we talk about restructuring. You know, somebody said to me, when you're talking about all these things, what's the definition? The definition I have may be different from the definition the man who wants to implement it has. And that is where the core problem we have in this country. You know, those who formulate policies have a different mindset of what terminology they are using to define those items. So when they begin to implement them, you begin to ask yourself, what's going on? I mean, I'll say that, look, I'm really, really disappointed right now with what is going on in governance.
Okay.
It took the government 24 hours to increase VAT. 30,000 naira salary has been there for months. Nobody has done anything about it. So tell me, where is the care and love for Nigerians? What is the value of a Nigerian life? So if government wants to be sincere, like I keep saying, you do not need to employ 1,000 people. You do not employ 2,000 people. All you need to do is say, okay, good. This, out of this salary, first of all, we'll start with those in governance. Cut their salaries by half. If you make the salary of a government official uninteresting, a lot of these people will not go into governance. It is because of the largesse they are getting there. That is why everybody is running to become a government official. So we need to, you know, downsize that. And then when you do that, whatever money is remaining, use it to set up small business here and there. When these businesses are thriving, people will on their own be self-sustaining. You don't have light. Our hospitals are something else. The educational system is collapsing because it is the same people in government that are busy opening up private schools. And all they are doing is collecting money from parents. All the public schools in Nigeria are dead. And then you're employing people and you're spending so much money on salaries. Who is earning this salary? Have we been able to curb the issue of ghost workers in Nigeria, even in the States? So a lot is wrong. And that is where I want to blame this young man that was given appointment, what's his name, that resigned, the guy that yes, he was, for me, that was the height of mediocrity. You'll be criticizing something and you're given opportunity. You should be able to prove your worth. If I was him, I would have done all the criticisms and said, no, this is where I'm coming from. And let me this is what I want them to do.
This thing. Okay, I want to hear Mr. Turner's take on this.
It's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate because the incoming generations, because our own generation, we are going, whether you like it or not. Once we are over 50, just forget about it. The incoming generation will have unemployment all over Nigeria. So there's no way. One man said it about 5 years ago. Said, look, all you these big men, all you these rich men, you are training your children now to come and take over from you. They go to the best schools all over the world. You spend a lot of money on them. One day they will come back home. All these children you are neglecting now, all these children you are calling the urchins, the touts, your children will come back to meet them
and they will deal with them.
And they will deal with them. I'm not trying to incite people. Our people, once they get into government, something used to go into their head. That is why there's nothing like religion once you're in the government. There's no, I'm a Christian, no, just forget it. It's bad, it's for mouth's sake. Our government, everything still boils down to the government. The head, our president is not doing enough. They will say now, we are into a presidential system of government. The people they are copying from, that is England and America, they are not doing it like this. Everybody knows how much the present president of America is earning. So also is British. In Britain, they know how much their prime minister is earning. But here, we just see it on paper. Forget about all these 15 million per month. What about other expenses? Like sitting allowance? That is why they fight over committees. They want to be a committee of petroleum or diesel because they know there are money there. So Nigeria, we are not getting it right. All over the world, they'll be looking at us and look at the giant of Africa. And let me say one thing again. Our governors are very lazy because there is no state in Nigeria that does not have enough resources to cater for that street. Some governors have started saying now that, look, that 13,000 naira, you know, we've not been able to pay 18,000 naira before. Now that you've jacked it up to 30,000, how are we going to do it? And they are earning security vote that they could not even say this because they don't have paper for it. The way they spend it, they are the only people that know about it.
All right, Mr. Shopiton, let me tap into your financial know-how once again. Now, according to the budget report, let's talk about our debt profile for a bit now. The federal government spent a total of in excess of 2 trillion naira, you know, on servicing debt in 2018, and we're still borrowing more. Now, what I do know as a lay person is that when our debt profile, you know, goes up, poverty is entrenched. But we're still borrowing, we're acquiring debt to service recurrent expenditure. Is this rational behavior, you know, by any government?
No. But borrowing in itself is not wrong.
It's not a bad thing, yes.
It's not wrong.
If you borrow for, not for consumption, if you borrow for investment and all that, definitely. And there is, in fact, America is the largest economy, is the greatest debtor. They are owing trillions of dollars too. So, what we need to do more than any other thing is, I was trying to see this issue you talked about, the children that we didn't train. Awolowo said it before he died. Okay. That these same children that you are neglecting, when your own children now come back, they will come back and meet them. They will make life impossible for them. So we are in a situation. Look at the man who went to appoint 180 additional. These monies are there. It's just the proper husbanding. I've suggested on this program that we should revive the river basin authorities. We have vast expanse of land in this country. Let them cultivate. Let them clear these places. Lease them out to come. We should now be talking of mechanized agriculture, not the backbreaking this thing. If we do all that, the greatest problem, like we all know, is that this issue of youth unemployment. Yeah. And there's always this saying that the idle hand is the devil's workshop. So once you provide them with the means of livelihood, all these things will be curbed. It is not, like I've said, borrowing is not bad by itself. And in fairness to this government, they are tackling this infrastructural deficit. And we need everything we can do to get the infrastructure right. I've said this here before on this proper gridlock. Let them open Paracourt, Calabar, and all those places so that importers from the east can send their goods straight to those places, and then we won't have all this congestion that we have in Lagos.
Total concentration here in Lagos.
But these are issues that, like I've said, solving the problem of this country is not rocket science. It's just simple, like what's his name? The late Adebo is a simple arithmetic. So now we are talking of this issue of the minimum wage. These same governors who are saying they can't pay the minimum wage are now appointing 180 additional aides. So yeah, look at the man in Oyo. I keep saying that. Where did he get money to now implement all these things? So it's just a question of the willpower to do the correct thing.
Okay.
Well,
all right. You want to add quickly?
You know, like you're saying, the governor in Oyo State. There's a difference between a leader,
and a ruler.
And a ruler,
of course.
Most of our governors are just rulers.
Yes.
All they're interested in is to amass wealth. That is why when somebody leaves governance after 8 years, he becomes a billionaire. He buys an aircraft. He lives in a very exorbitant and flamboyant lifestyle. You know, it is because nobody calls them to account. I mean, you know, like I keep telling, I'm always commenting on EFCC's social media handle. Everybody is happy with the way they're going about arresting Yahoo boys and prosecuting them. What are they doing about government officials who have embezzled
pen robbers
all the resources in the states? What are they doing about them? Nigeria is the only country where a councillor, after 8 years, buys the whole property within the place he lives. It simply means that there is so much money in governance to take from.
Okay.
And the money they keep borrowing, they're not borrowing it to develop the states, they are borrowing it to satisfy themselves.
They put part of the money in their pockets.
Really sad. Femi Salami from Ikorodu says appointment of multiple aides by a governor is uneconomical. Government should spend money on projects that will improve the quality of life. Thank you, Femi. All right, Udo is reiterating and says IT mismanagement, high cost of government, wastage in the system is the main cause of poor governance and performance. Okay, all right. This other one is commenting on the South African president's apology and says when they have already killed so many people, he's saying sorry. If he was in our shoes, what's he going to do? I would also like the government to provide employment for the Nigerian youth. I think unemployment is actually the bane of our society today as we speak. You need to go around certain areas in Lagos. I mean, virtually all the areas, and you see able-bodied young men, you know, just loafing around, doing absolutely nothing, gambling away, you know, the little they have. And, you know, I don't know how we're going to, you know, actually fix all these problems, but it's becoming more and more every day. The government of the day should
like I've said, just have willpower.
10 seconds.
The willpower to really do all it. Like I've said, it's not rocket science. I've kept saying it here. Let us ensure that we refine every ounce of crude in this country.
Okay.
Then we export the final product.
Okay.
Each time you import finished product, you are importing unemployment.
All right. 10 seconds.
I'm not causing this country. But I think the government should now think of building more asylums. No, it may sound funny because the way our youth are smoking their life out, the way they drink, the way you see them converging in all the corners, both the boys and girls smoking openly. Our police will just go there, arrest them, leave them again.
10 seconds.
Nigeria should be worried.
10 seconds.
Honestly, I'm like I would say, in 2015, Mr. President shedded tears for this country. Recently, the PDP presidential candidate Abubakar has also shedded tears. So everybody shedding tears. But the truth of the matter is that a lot has gone wrong. The governance of this country is at its lowest ebb.
Okay.
So we need to change a lot of things. We need to restructure Nigeria now.
And I think that's what this administration actually promised Nigerians: change. We need that change as quickly as